All right, so I'm excited to give you guys a little bit of the background on a new product that we're introducing this week called the ButtVest. This whole thing started probably 3 years ago, and a little bit of the full story is I was on a flight back from Southeast Asia and was reading a book called The Comfort Crisis. Nothing particularly novel in terms of concepts in this book, but it's actually a pretty motivating book. The story talks about a guy who goes hunting in Alaska and gets put through all kinds of hardship and uncomfortable situations, and it sparked in me a reminder of the joy that I find in doing relatively uncomfortable adventures, generally in the mountains. And so mid-flight, Wi-Fi, I booked I bought a license tag for 4th rifle season here in Colorado, something I hadn't hunted in years. I typically hunt archery season and or 1st rifle, 2nd rifle. 4th rifle is kind of the coldest, darkest, hardest slog. I only hunt public lands, and for me this was like, okay, this will be a good sufferfest. And the second thing I did was I signed up for a Nordic ski race called the Birkebeiner, and I hadn't done much Nordic skiing in probably almost a decade. It had been 10 years or so, and I thought, okay, this is the granddaddy of them all. It's a 50K, 30-some mile race in northern Wisconsin in February. It's super cold. Conditions tend to be pretty rough, and I thought, all right, this will be a sufferfest. And a little anecdote here too is I actually signed my wife up for the same event, who had really done almost no Nordic skiing in her life. That's a different story. So we got ready for this Nordic race, and the thing that happens in these Nordic races is you're typically in the middle of the race. It's kind of spandex. You're hot. It's full body workout. Your arms, your skates. I skate ski. Some people Nordic ski this thing, but you're relatively warm. The downside or the trick is that in the beginning of the race, it's super cold. It's just after dawn. Temperatures are usually single digits, and you have to hang out for like an hour and a half waiting for your wave to start. And so there's a question of how you stay warm while you're waiting, because then you got to take everything off and throw it in a duffel bag that gets taken to the front or the finish line. And so I had years ago in the downhill ski racing world, people would wear like hockey shorts over their ski gear, because they were warm, but then they could take them off easily when it was time to race. And so I actually got a pair of old shorts, basically insulated shorts, and I used them for the beginning of this race. And so when the race was ready to start, I took them off and I threw them in a duffel bag, and it worked. They actually worked really well. When I came home, I started using them around the cabin, around the shop, plowing snow, and it turned out to be a really versatile layer. Fast forward to that elk hunt later in the year, and I used the same basic short that we had then prototyped in my elk hunt, and that became what we're calling right now the Woobie vest. So this is the same fabric package that we use in our M3 Woobie hoodies, Woobie jackets, and Woobie vest. It's a super lightweight synthetic insulation. It's quilted. These are some of our most coveted and most favored products in the mid layers. So we use that same fabric package, and then on the back we used a waterproof fabric that's part of our S2, our Storm Shell collection. Obviously the benefit here is that a lot of times when you're sitting around in this product, for me hunting, I'm glassing in the snow, it's pre-dawn, it's cold, I'm usually either sitting on a pack, sometimes I'll bring a chair or some little cushion that I'll sit on, but it's often wet. In the job sites, it's sitting in a skid steer. Sometimes you're lucky and you've got a skid steer that's got an enclosed cab, otherwise the seat is wet. So having a waterproof butt pad, if you will, was a key feature for us. The other thing we've done is we've included side zips. These side zips run not all the way to the top. And in fact, the prototype that I had been using in that first Birkebeiner race, the zippers went all the way through, and you could take the thing off like an old, remember the basketball warm-ups where you'd rip them off? The problem is it's really hard to get them started again and get them back on. And it was a lot of fidgeting, and it really didn't make it that much easier to take them on and off. And so for two reasons. One is it's easier to get them on and off that the zippers don't go all the way to the top. The other problem that I have with zippers when they go over to the waistband is that if I'm wearing tool bags, if I'm wearing a climbing harness, if I'm wearing a backpack, they just bite right into your hips. The zippers end up right where the waistband is, and they're brutally painful. So we opted not to do that. We run them just the way we have. There's two zippers here. So one runs all the way down. The other is great because I can get to my pockets on the inside of my pants, and I can also ventilate without having to basically undo the entire zipper. The two front pockets are pretty similar to things that we would use. It's a top access pocket, so when you sit down, nothing falls out. They're very secure, and they're very simple. There's no zipper. It's easy to get your hands in and out. I typically will have, I'll have wind check in here if I'm hunting. I'll have my keys to the equipment, whatever it is, in these pockets. Sometimes I'll have them on the inside if I'm wearing a pair of T2 pants, T3 pants underneath them. And again, these pockets make it easy to get, these zippers rather make it easy to get to our pockets when those are wearing underneath. Their fit, this is really important. These are sized about a size larger than our normal pants. So they're designed to go over your standard pants. So if I'm wearing a T3 work pant, these go over them. And so don't size up. If you're normally a medium, get a medium. If you're normally a large, get a large. Know that these are gonna fit over your standard pants. That's how they're designed to be worn, as kind of a vest layer. One of the things that when I talk about the vest, it's super important. Vests are designed to keep our core warm. That's super important when our hands are getting cold, when we don't want reduced mobility, right? The vest doesn't come over our shoulders, so you don't lose shoulder mobility. It keeps our core warm. That keeps our hands warm. Super important on the upper body. Now, nobody that I know has ever really built and designed a vest for your bottom. The concept is exactly the same, you guys. It keeps our core warm, and we have a lot of core that's below our belt, right? A lot of our thighs and our glutes and our groin, tons of blood flow, tons of big muscles. That's a huge part we gotta keep warm. And when we do that, it in turn keeps our feet warm. That's critical. So again, throw a vest over your bottom and you gain a lot of the same benefits you would on the top, only for the bottom of your body. The other big deal is that because they don't go over our knees, we don't lose the mobility. When you start bundling up too much, you can't move your legs, you lose, getting in and out of equipment, it gets to be cumbersome. These don't have that problem. When I'm hiking, when I'm backpacking, hiking an animal out, I don't want something that's gonna reduce my motion because I need all of that efficiency that I can get. Last thing, in the ventilation side of this, what I found hunting particularly, and I'll use the same thing shoveling snow, right? If I'm sitting down in a piece of equipment, I might not be working all that hard, so I like to run the zippers all the way down. If I'm glassing, I run the zippers all the way down. But when it comes to higher aerobic output, I'll vent these things. I don't actually, I rarely, it has to be in the 70s or warmer for me to take these off. If it is in the 50s, I just leave them on and I vent them. And it's kind of like walking around with a pair of chaps on, something like that. They move with you, but they vent completely. And so there's almost no downside to just keeping these on the entire day. Honestly, one of the most versatile, most highly effective garments that I've sort of created or been able to use in my career. And so, yeah, a little weird. It's a butt vest. It looks a little strange. We have them in a black color. That's a little more subdued, but we also have them in this bright orange camo pattern. Obviously, part of this is I like to hunt in this color. I like that the camo breaks up my pattern a little bit. I don't look quite as much like a big orange blob. Obviously, in rifle season, I have to have an orange vest on and a hat, and so I'm pretty oranged out anyway, and I don't mind that from a safety perspective, but I like the camo breakup. It's also very, very helpful in a lot of the utility around the job site. I want to be seen in the winter. It's very easy in a bright yellow vest or whatever that is to blend in with an all-white snow background. This orange has more contrast than yellow does if you're shoveling snow, if you're clearing snow, if you're working in a winter environment. And candidly, and we're working on research around this right now, but having a pattern where you bring your own contrast, where you're not reliant on the background to create contrast for you, is super advantageous in certain settings. Again, snow is a big one of these, where we actually want this black to help offset the darker, the oranges, to create contrast so that we're seen on job sites more effectively. So that's the background on the ButtVest. I'm excited to get it to you guys. I know it's a little bit unique. It's part of our promise to you to keep pushing the limits of technical innovation in workwear and also in apparel that is designed for our lives, right? Like, to face it, we work in a way to support the rest of our lives. And part of that is hunting. Part of that is snowmobiling. It's fishing. It's being at the game with our kids and our teams. And so, look, you're going to sit on some cold aluminum bleachers? Give the ButtVest a shot, man. Hope to hear from you. Check them out. Can't wait to hear what you say. Cheers.